Everyone, and thanks for joining again on Facebook Live with HMR. I'm health coach Rick, and I'm here with longtime fellow health coach Nancy. Hi, Nancy. How are you doing tonight?
I'm great. Thanks, Rick.
Yep. And we have, at long last,
yay!
We have Rita joining us. Well, Rita, it has been a long time coming. Let's just say that.
It's a pleasure.
Oh, thank you. Thank you. Nancy and I have known you. I hate to say it. It's not just years. It's actually decades.
Yes. Yep.
And guys, together, collectively, we have almost 100 years of HMR experience here,
Wow.
right here in this conversation. So,
I don't know if that's a good thing or
a bad thing. Can we admit that? Yeah.
Yeah. Well, unfortunately, I just did. I probably should have run that by you guys.
I think it's great.
Listen, Rita, I don't want to belabor your introduction, and I certainly don't want to embarrass you, but I will just say that my brother Bill, who is also a health coach at HMR, also more than 30 years, he only half jokingly said, you know, I've worked with Rita through the years, and when I'm in the coaching session, I'll just ask her a question and sit back and let her teach the class.
let him say it.
No pressure.
That's Bill. That's our Bill.
Yeah, and that's you. So we are just so excited to hear a little bit about, or maybe a lot about, your experience with HMR through the years, aren't we, Nancy?
Oh, we're really excited. And in fact, Rita, you know, and we were thrilled that you were quick to say yes, that you would love to join us for this event. So tell us why.
Well, you know, it's easy to say yes. First of all, here we are, you know, on remotely doing this, which is great. So it makes it easy and we can reach so many people. We were just talking, of course, before we went live about, you know, doing videos in years gone past. And this is just so great. And for me, you know, I'm very proud of the work I've done with HMR, but I'm really grateful for the program and the changes to my life because of it. And I don't often speak of it publicly. And so I thought this was a great opportunity. And if I can help anyone else on their journey, I would really love to do that. So that's why I'm here. I've really learned a lot. And, you know, not everything I've done is perfect, but I've had really good role models, great training, great camaraderie with other people in the program. And it's really helped me along my journey. So thanks for inviting me. It's great.
Absolutely. Oh, absolutely. Couldn't be happier. You know, Nancy, I want to jump right in and just say hello to some people. We got a lot of people who are already joining in. I want to give a special hello to Michael, Michael, did I twist your arm? I talked to my group this past Tuesday, Rita, and said, this is one you really want to bookmark. So Michael, glad you're here. Susan is here. Jennifer is here. A little inside joke. Jennifer, cheers to you tonight, the mug that she covets. Bob Garrison from RCC, Nancy, has joined us. So
good.
Some of our regulars. Excellent. All right.
Yep.
Candace, also from my group. Candace, awesome. She's become a regular. Great to have you here.
Marsha's here. She's become a regular as well.
Mm-hmm.
She's been in phase 2 for, I think, 8 years, she said.
Oh, yes, right.
Carolyn, Sharon White. We're going to be seeing her shortly.
Carolyn, hey, another someone from my Tuesday group. Awesome, great. Well, we'll keep welcoming people, but we actually have a lot of ground to cover here. So we're going to start with a familiar question, and to our audience, this is an opportunity for you to just take a minute. You know, you're in action right now, whether you're in phase 1 or phase 2 of the program, but step back for a minute and just pause as Rita talks a little bit about her history before HMR, and just get in touch with your own reasons, your own whys, as Shane has sort of indoctrinated into our thinking here. You've got to keep your whys in mind. Why are you putting in this work to lose weight, to manage weight through the years? So Rita, with your long history with HMR, we'll get into that. Just briefly paint the picture of your own struggles with your weight earlier in your life.
Yeah. Well, I've been with HMR in the program for about 30 years, and you know, that's a long time, but I don't think anyone would ever question why you were in a program, let's say, to enhance your medical situation or to learn how to played tennis better. That's not a nod to Bill or any of the others, but that is a little bit on the tennis. But for me, it's really, it had to be a major turnaround because I really didn't have any good role models growing up on how to maintain my weight. There were people in my family who did not have a weight problem. In fact, my siblings, but I did. So it was always sort of why. And, as I learned as we went along, I really realized that I overate from a very young age. I love food. I was a very positive in my family, in my family's culture. It was very social. I then learned and loved to cook. And so all of that in a way really worked against me at a young age. And like many of us, I had lots of diet attempts, which through my teens, I mean, when I look back, and this, coming to you tonight really made me remember that even through high school, I had to work really hard, and I didn't have any tools to do it, honestly. So, as the years went on, I just began to gain more and more weight, and that was my history. Unlike, I think, like many of I think our other clients here, and so that's why I came to it, because by the time I was in my early 30s and I had a baby, then I really couldn't manage it anymore on my own, and I didn't really understand that. And it was because I didn't have the tools to turn it around. So it was really fortunate that 30 years ago, I found this program, and it was kind of the old school program. It was based in a hospital. It was really well managed then. Even then, all of the staff was really well trained. It was very clear expectations. And, that really began to solidify, I would say, and take me on the journey. But lots of swings, lots of weight loss and weight gain before that, and actually even in the early years of it.
Let's Nance, what do you say we put up a photo of
Say,
Rita? Can we go back a few?
Yeah.
And,
Oh yeah, there she is.
there she is.
This
While
is the first
ago.
time I've seen this, Rita. I had never seen this.
Yeah, so I'm a lot younger. This is probably, actually, it's not when I first started. This is somewhere in the middle, in one of my high swings before going back to a restart. A lot younger, but a lot heavier. And and I remember this event was an important event in the family, and I remember feeling, how was I going to conquer it? I've recently seen some other photos from this celebration, and they're tough to look at, but also they make me realize how far I've come.
Yeah. No, I hear you. We'll come back to that and show sort of a juxtaposition.
Yeah.
We were remarking, it's just like face is the same, smile is the same. It's just all these years later, it's just tremendous. Hey, I just want to really quickly, a couple quick shout outs here, Nance. I want to say hi to Joy and Kathleen for joining us here. Michelle, thank you. Melanie, Linda, and a special shout out to the one and only Dan Karen, who is my cousin and who has not graced these airwaves in quite some time. So, bro, it's just great to know that you're there watching. Excellent. Rita, let's jump into it.
Who says she loves the program. She's down to her goal weight now and ready to start phase 2. Glad, Rachel, you're saying you're going to start phase 2. That's
great, Rachel.
Excellent. Nance, keep saying hello to people as we go along here.
Yeah, I will.
I want to, Rita, since we were going to cover a number of different things, we've actually organized it, believe it or not, into 5, I don't know if experiences is the right word, 5 chapters, if you will. So we're going to try to cover all 5 chapters here. Each has their own insight or perspectives that we think are going to be useful for everyone who's watching. But could you just quickly recap? You've had so much time with HMR. Are you able to sort of give us a quick overview of your journey through the years, and then we'll get into the details and the specifics?
Yeah, I was trying to remember it all, which isn't easy, but it was coming back. So I started post having a baby in 1990, and I'm very clear about that. And, I had to struggle not only with, postpartum weight, but also with the weight that that I had been gaining in my 20s. And I had great success, quick weight loss. We know that's, you know, one of the hallmarks of HMR, and it is, which is also part of why I, you know, have always come back. And I kept 60 pounds off, which was, and I was at my goal weight then, that was 60 pounds, for about 3 years. And then what began to happen, which happens to many of us, is I went on the road working, and it became more and more difficult to be actually in the program, because in those days, this is why we're so lucky now, in fact, to even be on these calls remotely in our classes, because you had to be physically in a clinic. If you missed, you could not come back in. If you missed more than, I believe 2, I can't remember exactly, Nancy and Rick, you'll remember, but you know, you were out, and I was on the road all the time. You know, I had young children, and that was really difficult for me. So, I kept it off for a while, couldn't keep it off on my own, went back into a restart. And I would say that of the 30 years we're talking about, because I've been thinking about this for tonight, the first 15 or so, you know, I probably had some gaps in there where I would leave for a few months, rapidly see the weight going back on, and try to get myself back into in those days, a clinic, for a stretch where I could do it. So that was just the way the program was. But I always realized the, you know, how effective the program was for me. And, you know, and really my struggle in the 30 years, even now, of course, is the phase 2 struggle. It was never the losing weight part, you know, it was, that was always something that wasn't easy to navigate, but I could navigate it.
And you did both diets, right? In through your history.
Yeah, so I've done decision-free and I've done healthy solutions depending on what my life situation is, and really where my swing was. I know we're going to talk about weight swings in a little bit, but depending on how high I might have, how much weight I might have gained, I might go back on decision-free to do it quickly, because I'm sort of impatient about that. But yes, healthy solutions. And really, I can say that the weight loss was very similar in either program for me. Yeah, it was. So that I learned early. I think I thought it would always be quicker and decision-free, but honestly, it was just about the same in the other. And then, you know, that went on for a while. And finally, you know, I know this is a big jump, but finally in 2007, you know, I think there was enough in my life too that had changed. My children were grown. I had some time to really focus on myself. I made it a project. And because of that, I think I was able to really be more successful and bring all the components together. And so since then, I would say, you know, success yielding success.
Excellent. Well, you've set the stage nicely. You've alluded to 2 of the chapters. Let's get right into, you mentioned the weight swings.
Rick, I want to just stop you for a minute, because one of the things I love, Rita, is, you know, even though there were times you were gaining weight, you had to drop out of the program for a lot of, you know, really valid reasons. You never dismissed the program as not working. Like, you were sort of clear that it was just, I'm struggling right now with being able to do it, but it's not the program. And that, so I feel like you always knew you had a program to come back to. And
yeah, and it was really well suited for me. And I think so many of us know that. So many of us who are online tonight, and others, and all those people I recommend it to, because first of all, it's, you know, it's very simplified when you're on it. So no matter how complex your life is, you can get through it. And for me, that was always really important, because I was on the road. I had an executive job. I had children. I was commuting back and forth across states most of the time. I had to have it simple. And for me, that was great. And I needed the positive reinforcement of losing weight. And this program has always given me that.
That's
always.
Great.
Yeah.
So awesome.
now we're ready for Rick.
Yes, thank you. The chapter 1, let's go right into it. The weight
Yeah.
swings. So just to our audience, as you're listening to this, I'm guessing that you can relate to this, what we're about to talk about. So Rita, talk a little bit about this and the history that you've had with
Mhm.
losing weight and gaining it back, et cetera. Nancy, you and I have talked a lot about this through the years, but after our first conversation with Rita, we've had additional conversations about this as well.
Yeah, I mean, one of the things we love is you bring a lot of reality-based thinking to your experience with your weight loss and your
Good way to
ongoing
put it.
management. And so, one of the realities is weight fluctuations. And, people may not realize this, but it happens to everybody.
Mhm.
So, talk about it and your experience. And, it's exciting that you've been able to kind of like narrow those over time.
Yeah. And that's really what happened. So the swings in the beginning, even after I had joined HMR in 1990, I had that low, I kept it for about 3 years, and then I had a big swing up. And those swings were like 60 pounds. And ultimately, one of the swings brought me to the top, which is where I had to lose the 82 pounds. And I never, fortunately, went higher than that swing. But, those were significant. And I do this on purpose because it really was that yo-yo we talk about, but it was also what I learned over time, and it's great now to feel this and be able to say it, is those swings lessened and, like this. So now, I would say my swings were 60 pounds seems to be kind of an average with me. And then I would pull it off. I would keep it off for a while. And by the way, this is in the program. I'm not leaving the program when I'm doing this. I'm still working it. So imagine if I hadn't been in the program, what the swing would have been. That's what I've always told myself. This is always the stick with it because, on my own, I think it would have been worse. And so now what I've worked on in the last, especially 5 years, is my last swing was 20 pounds. And I'm at the lowest of my adult body weight now, within 2 pounds for a year.
Wow.
And so that swing is like this. And I'm really working that. I learned from the big ones that you can keep on getting there. It just doesn't always happen the first time.
I love that. It's like, like anything, sometimes like the harder experiences, the weight gain, it's still learning opportunity.
Yeah.
Right. Yeah. And, it's an ongoing learning opportunity. Ongoing.
Nancy, I love the term you use, reality-based thinking. The fact is there are swings. No one's weight stays the same. Kind of the opposite is wishful thinking. Wouldn't it be great if there were no swings?
Yeah.
You lose the weight and it's a straight line and there you go and you dance off into the sunset. So, but I think I can confidently say, I think we're better than we've ever been at helping people to manage those swings.
Yeah.
Catch those weight gains before they develop a momentum of their own, because then they become somewhat intractable and overwhelming.
They can catch them quickly. Yeah.
Yeah. So that is sort of the name of the game here. You lose the weight quickly, and then you're in life working to manage those calories. There can be some weight gain, but the goal is to catch that early and to try to minimize those swings.
And if I might say, and we sort of hadn't practiced any of this, so I want to say it, but I never felt judged when I had the swing. Of course. So thank you, HMR. I never felt judged by any coach. I judged myself and I was hard on myself about it, but I never felt that. I really felt comfortable always, just dealing with it in a very practical, data-oriented way. It was
beautiful.
Great.
Yeah. We consider this a no judgment zone.
Yeah, great. You do it.
Yeah, and that is reality. So
you want to show Rita's pre-post?
Ah, great idea. So, all right, Rita, here we are. Let me just put this back up and so here we go. That's so awesome. What a fabulous juxtaposition.
I love that.
Totally great. Really, really love it. Let me put it up here as I sort of tee up chapter 2. I'm just wondering, the weight swings, people in our audience, can you relate to that as being what has happened in your past? And hopefully you can grab some hope from this conversation that, you know, we do recognize that it does happen, but we also know what to do to help minimize that and to help you gain control over time, as Rita has so clearly just.
Yeah, I think it's very topical right now. Jennifer was saying she really needed that right now.
Good.
We've got a couple people who said, you know, Lori saying I lost 58 pounds, I've gained back 8. I'm not happy about that. But, you know, the fact that you're here still, as Rita said, is the most important thing. Sharon, who's had a lot of success, 50 to 60 pounds have always been my swing. Since 2008, I've never gone back over 200, and now my swings are 6 to 7 instead of 6. So again, and Sharon's another person who's been here for quite a long time. So somebody was saying this talk about swings is making me nervous, but you know, again, it's reality. So it's almost better to know that it happens and be able to work with it than to, you know, kind of think, oh, you know, you just lose your weight and then it's over. So
That's right.
we got a lot of people commenting. So hopefully people can be supportive here.
All right. So Rita, down, is it 82 here as of this picture?
Yeah, that's 82.
Beautiful. Beautiful. So we just talked about chapter 1, which is narrowing that window of weight fluctuation, the swings. Let's move into chapter 2, if you will.
Okay.
Oh boy, I love this chapter, I have to say. Rita, I have interviewed you, gosh, you know, I think the first time I ever interviewed you was over 20 years ago, back in the clinic days.
Yeah.
And in one of those early interviews, you shared a powerful view about treating your weight loss like a project. And it was such a fabulous way of looking at it that it even made its way into our program materials, believe it or not. Yes, yes. So share with the audience how that idea sort of dawned on you and then how you sort of used it to support successfully losing weight. And I would ask if for people who are in weight loss in particular right now, phase 1, this is for you right here. Go ahead, Rita.
Well, you know, I've run a lot of projects. So it just came to me in one of the interviews, but I used an analogy that I think we all can relate to, which is when you go to, let's say, restore or renovate your kitchen, you know, if that's a project, we all know what it means. It means it's going to be sort of a living hell for a little while. Your life is going to nothing is going to be normal. And so you're going to have to, you know, put the microwave in the living room, just like in the program, you're asking someone in a restaurant to mix a shake for you. You know, it's just the same kind of thing. But I think the analogy of the project is that it has a beginning, middle, and end. And as a project, and I think it's phase 1, it's really good to think that way. And I know I've had great success in phase 1 and not just once, but in really seeing that, you know, that goal, knowing you can reach it, actually almost even being able to calculate where you're going to be when, especially if you're true to it. You know, if you are really in the box, you know, in a way, your body's like a machine, you know what's going to happen. And that's like a project going on, but everything around it is confusing because you're breaking all the rules. But you know, the project ends, the kitchen looks beautiful. It's all clean and sanitized, and you are all healthy and wonderful. And the add-on about the project and the kitchen is you don't mess it up the next day. You know, you don't go back to throwing everything and having everything in the corner you might have had. You want to keep it for as long as you can. And that's really the phase 2. But I think if you're in phase 1 and you need that encouragement, it's a moment. It's a moment. And boy, it's a great moment because it's quantifiable. It's you know what's going to happen. You can count on it. And if you do it, you will have the result. It's really a wonderful period, a wonderful time.
It's a brilliant metaphor, analogy. It's so interesting just because, you know, and I'm sure many people in our audience have had various house renovation projects that you've endured, but that you also didn't really question that life was going to be topsy-turvy.
Right.
But isn't it interesting with this? Like there is a draw, a very natural, understandable draw to kind of not want to have a lot of changes happen and then to sort of protect some of the old routines, habits, whatever they may be socially or whatnot. And that's just not what happens when you're renovating a kitchen.
Well, you
It's not-
can't. You can't start going out and saying to the contractor, or if you're doing it yourself, oh, we're not going to do it for a couple of weeks.
Yeah.
You have to do it, or you're never going to be back in it again.
That's right.
So.
That's right. But you get the kitchen renovated. And
Exactly. And
that's
it's
right.
just what you want, and it's efficient, and that's what you wanted.
This combobulation for a while.
Yeah, right. Yeah.
Rita,
So-
you underscored in our previous conversation a couple of times, and you said it once here, but I want to say it again, which is to treat it like a project, but make sure you finish the project.
Yeah. And don't mess it up after you're on the other side of it. That's the hard part, I have to honestly say. And that's why, a little bit of why I'm here talking.
Rita, I'm looking at one of my neighbors who's been putting on an addition for 2 years. I'm wondering if you could give him a call and talk about finishing that project.
Well, that's the problem, right? If you drag it out, it's painful.
Yeah.
And I think that's another part of the analogy.
Yep.
Oh, that's a great point.
Nancy, quick hello, quick shout out. I see Shane just joined.
Yes, I was gonna say-
Friend. Great to have you here. I want to also say hi to Norman, who is a newer member to my group. Norman, I hope you thought that project analogy was a helpful one. And actually, I would ask that of all of our audience. If you're in phase one right now, is there something else to do to sort of put both feet into that idea of this is a project and there are concessions that I need to make, but you being the project, you're worth it. It'll be worth it. And it's going to be a lot better than nice countertops and new stove and whatever else is in that kitchen.
Mhm.
All right, awesome. So that was chapter 2. So we've talked about the weight swings. We've talked about you are the project, even going past phase 1. Let's now move into chapter 3, shall we? Boy, this is a great chapter. I love this. Challenging your assumptions about physical activity.
Yeah, I love this, Rick. So, when we all spoke last week, you really lit up when we started talking about physical activity. And so let me ask you a question. Is the idea of you really enjoying PA and actually looking at yourself as someone who is an active person, would that come as a surprise to young Rita?
Oh, yeah. I mean, young Rita, first of all, grew up in a time when, we barely got in and out of gym class, or we pretended we weren't there a lot of the time. And in fairness, it wasn't an opportunity time for women in athletics. Everything has changed since when I was in elementary school. Everything about, women in athletics and those being sponsored. So in some ways, I'm not too hard on myself because I realize it just wasn't there. My parents, interesting, who were not athletes at all. They did have the wherewithal. They sent me to tennis camp. I went to a camp where there was a lot of activity. I was really uncomfortable with it. I never felt like I could really engage in it. I didn't have real role models for it. I just didn't, I just felt always uncomfortable. I always felt like I was going to be the last kid picked for softball, and often I was.
Oh.
So yeah, I know, and so some of that was, kind of painful, and that was how it started for me. So those are, I never considered that I would be in any kind of organized athletic activity.
Big difference. So you've actually come pretty far here. And as you talk about some of your accomplishments now with exercise, I will just ask the audience, particularly for those of you who've been with HMR for some time, same question, Nancy, that you just asked Rita.
Yeah.
How many of you who are watching might not have recognized who you are now in terms of how you relate to activity and physical activity and being active, an active lifestyle when you before HMR? Are things different? would you not have recognized, would you have not believed some of the words you say? I've got to go out and get my exercise, or whatever it might be.
You actually like exercise, that you're doing more than you once did. So Rita, how did you get started doing physical activity?
Yeah.
Well, the program, it was, one of the imperatives, and I took that on. I always took the program, still do, on for what it is. I'm going to do, well, I'll talk about that in a little bit. When I'm getting, when I decided I was going to do it your way. And once I did that, it just got better. But of course, in the beginning, it was walking, but even that was tremendous, and that was especially the early years. When I would walk as much as I could. And I was also so motivated in that project mode to lose the weight that the walking was it. But I wasn't, I enjoy walking. It wasn't a problem, but I didn't love it. It wasn't like something I wanted to go out and do necessarily. I just did it to be compliant. So that's really how it started. But I have a good story for you. This was in about 2007 when I really made a transition here with PA. I was walking one evening. I was in phase 1. And I was walking, and I was going to meet some friends. And I realized that I had left the house too late to get in my PA for the evening and to be able to get home. Someone must have been picking me up, or I was going to meet them. I don't remember that. But here's what I remember. I remember thinking, I'm going to have to run home. And I did. And I thought, oh, I can run. I know it sounds ridiculous, but it was true. And I ran, and I wasn't breathless, and I wasn't, hurting. And I didn't feel like I was, awkward. And I thought, and I got home, and, whatever happened next, but I thought, I'm going to start seeing if I can do this. And after that, it just happened. I'm really, I love the Leslie Sansone Walk at Home program. I still do it. I don't do it as much as I used to because I really prefer to be outside, but I do it in the winter. I do it sometimes when I'm just sick of, being on the pavement. And that actually is quite a workout. So I had been doing that and my regular walking, and I think it just got me, I was primed. And I didn't know it. It was by accident that I figured it out.
I love that story. And just like, oh my God, I just ran and I'm okay.
Yeah, and I think I ran 2 miles. I was really far up because I know the route, and I still run that route now.
Marilyn chimes in here. I never would have believed that I could do the PA and it wouldn't be uncomfortable the whole time.
Yeah, that's it.
Now, here you are, Marilyn. Really good. Shane, PA doesn't hurt like it used to at 352 pounds. Non-scale victory, able to do so much more now. Tremendous. Really, really great.
Yeah.
Bob, I've never been an athlete, but I can always do exercise to be healthy.
Yeah, exactly.
Quick shout out to Leanie, my sister. Rita, I'm not sure if you know Leanie. You know most people in my family, but yeah. So
I do.
Joining us. Awesome.
From a long, long time ago. We'll see if she remembers me.
Yeah. Look, we finally got Rita on the Facebook Live, Leanie. Look at this.
That's great. That's great.
So should we show a photo here?
Yes. I love this picture.
Where is it? Here we are. Hold on. Look at this.
I know, my husband took that. I love it. So this was in 2010. And I always say my greatest success has been since about 2007 until now. And so this is 2010, the Hartford half marathon. I haven't run a marathon, but I've run 4 halves, and in those last 10 years or so, and a lot of 10Ks. But this was just amazing to me that I could do it, and felt really good. Boy, I'm young there too. Yikes, 11 years is rough to see. Let's take that down. But I really felt good, and I was slow. I'm still slow. I'm always slow. So, but I don't care. And I've never cared. I'm just happy to finish, happy to have those. I love signing up for races because it really helps me in the weeks leading up to the races to get that PA in without even thinking about it. You know, every week we're all thinking about it and problem solving it in our classes. But when you sign up for a race, it takes the edge off of that nicely because I'm terrified to run 13 miles without training properly because I'm terrified I won't finish. So I do all of the training, and you know, my numbers for a long time are up. It takes about 10 weeks for me to do that training for the half. And here I do want to give a shout out to Coach Bill because you know, he has been a big influence on me. He's been my coach many years over all of these years. And he has such a positive view of PA for in his own life that it rubs off.
Yeah, that's great.
And it did here. Yeah.
Really great.
Yeah.
I don't mean to beat a dead horse, but I just want to make sure people aren't thinking, oh my gosh, I have to run half marathons
No.
successful on this program. Just a word of encouragement, just channeling back to, but when you weren't much of an exerciser, about how the doors that can open if you just stay in action about this behavior, Rita.
Yeah, well, you know, walking is terrific. And I think the point is success breeds success. I always say that. So it's, you know, you just keep moving. And honestly, you get a little tired of doing the same thing. So I think you just change it up. And so, you know, an at-home program like a video during the pandemic, for the first time in many years, I bought a stationary bike in the house. And I think I mostly watched the news to see what was happening while I frantically pedaled. But, you know, so I'm trying to mix it up. But I've never been an athlete. I wasn't an athlete. It's hard for me to even think that, but I do it to motivate me. And that can be a short walk. You can even sign up for a 5K walk, which is 3 miles. And, you know, you're doing 3 miles now, but it just adds a little something to it. So if there's anything like that, I really encourage people to do it. And I last week did a virtual 10K, which is like 6 miles. And it was fun. And, you know, it got me connected with some friends who do it. But I have to tell you, at my age, no one else runs, not many people. So the other trick here is your numbers will be great. You might even get like a medal because nobody else is out there.
That's so funny. Yeah, because there won't be that many people.
There's nobody there.
Yeah, I have to say, just to that point, Nancy, you know, I have to share this. So my mom, 4 years ago, at the age of 90, won my hometown road race for the 90-year-old category, Rita, but she also won for the 80-year-old and the 70-year-old.
Exactly. It's fascinating. It's great.
Yeah, oh, I love that story.
Totally awesome.
And then, you know, just to shout out, you know, great example, Jennifer was sharing here that, yeah, I mean, so she's someone that started out with a walker, and then she said, it's almost like one day I woke up and I decided I can walk faster without my walker, and it didn't hurt my back like it used to.
Oh,
There
that's
it is.
beautiful.
So, you know, I mean, just to have somebody, you know, and Jennifer, like, it's so inspiring to, you know,
Wonderful.
suddenly find out that you're actually better off without the walker. I mean,
Yeah.
oh my goodness.
That's wonderful. And you know, it happens and you don't know. I mean, for me, the moral of that story and a little bit what I was saying is that you don't even know it's happening. That's the point. So, you know, I think we have to be open to, I mean, that's hugely being open to what could happen. Yeah.
Well, I'm not sure I can give you any greater compliment than what I'm going to read now, this comment in the comment section, Rita. I want to pick Rita first for my softball team.
Thank you.
Oh, that's great.
Oh my God.
All right,
Thank
so
you.
we're working through our 5 chapters. We talked about the weight swings and the idea that you can narrow these over time. We help you to do that. Chapter 2, you are the project. Treat it like the important project that it is. And then we just talked about challenging your assumptions about PA in so many instances. the ceilings we run into are the glass ones that we impose on ourselves. It just really is the case.
I'm sorry, I have to read one more post on PA and then I know we're going to move on. So this is from Eloise. I keep my 5K medals hanging on the door to remind me I can do it. Next year, I'll run it at 80.
Yes,
So,
Wow.
yes,
Eloise,
you will.
I love it.
Great.
And then Laurie said, I can run up steps now.
Oh,
Yeah.
beautiful.
All right. Okay.
No, thank you,
Love
Nina.
it. Love it. All right. I had to share that.
No, more.
Yeah.
All right. So let's now move into chapter 4. This one, in hindsight, it sounds horribly self-serving.
Yeah,
Do it HMR's way. Rita.
Did we lose Rick
Oh,
there for a minute?
All right. So you know, generally when people join a weight loss program, they're not thinking, well, I'm just going to do this forever. So, you know, tell us how you were thinking about HMR early on.
Yeah, as I think many listeners are right now thinking, it's like, you know, I'm going to go in there, I'm going to lose the weight and I'm going to get out. And actually, I wasn't even thinking about what I was going to do next, just that I really wanted to lose the weight, you know, the project. So everything was on that. And in reality, even when I came back and did like a restart or two, I was really focused on that. But I think that, you know, this idea that I needed a safe space to keep on coming back to is really what happened. So I tell the story of coming to an orientation for a restart. And I was in a clinic, we were all sitting there, you know, everybody like, here we are again, you know, kind of mode. And it's a great camaraderie actually for people who come back again, because you're like, oh yeah. And the question comes from the coach. Okay, what are you going to do differently this time? And there was a guy in front of me and he said, I'm going to do it your way, not my way this time. And I've never forgotten that. And it often resonates when I'm, you know, I've been on the program a long time. So I'm like, maybe I won't do that. And I think about what he said. And I sometimes wonder what he did and where he is. You know, we all went our ways. But I think that's so important that, you know, and I mean, it is self-serving to the program, but that's why we're here. I wouldn't be here if I didn't believe in the program and, you know, really being compliant. And I think that that's one thing is like, I do it the way you tell me to do it. You know, I often will say in class, you know, I'm the boss in a lot of places, at home, at work. I'm not the boss here. You know, my coaches, and I feel very grateful to have the personalized attention. And I mean that. So, you know, for me, that was really pivotal because I began to think there is no moving on. I was in class just this week, yesterday, and I ran into an old member, another member who I knew years ago in the clinic. I'm not often in that class. And he said, well, you know, about 15 years ago, I was in a class and this woman, and it was me, said, well, I think I'm going to be here the rest of my life. And he said, so it's your fault, Rita. And so there we are 15 years later in a class on Zoom, which was great. But the point was, you know, I love that I influenced him by saying, for me, there is no option other than, you know, sticking with it, however that with it is in the moment.
It's interesting because Tim mentioned that a couple of weeks ago as someone who came back and re-lost some of the weight gain from the pandemic. And he was saying, you know, he had taken a break from the program and he said, you know, this time I'm going to be connected to HMR in some way, shape or form long term. Yeah. And Rick, how many times do we hear Anita Cohen, right? Who, you know, Rita, somebody that was with us for years and years, it's called phase 2 or, you know, the insurance policy.
That's right.
Right. You know, like just, you know, is an hour a week or 50 minutes a week worth just being able to stay in control of this, so.
Yeah. So we really appreciate that perspective, Rita. Thank you for that. You could even sort of apply it in a little bit more of a micro way, beyond just be in phase one and make sure you join phase two. Even, there's a tendency to want to do things your own way. How many times have, Nancy, you talked to somebody whose records are spotty and and you're really coaching them to be more diligent with their records because they will do better if they take on that coaching. So, do it the way I'm saying, because you'll do better that way. I've had people say, I'm losing weight with just this structure of the box. Not going to prioritize the physical activity right now. And, my coaching is, this is the time to be prioritizing the physical activity. So there's just so many ways you can apply that particular lesson, Rita. So thank you for that.
Well, I have to say that if I knew how to do this, that I wouldn't be in a program for 30 years. It's pretty obvious to me that I have some kind of gap in being able to do this on my own, probably from early years. And so I'm happy for the support, even if it's not something that I exactly like at a particular moment. And I think too, the longer you do it, the more it's not like the only thing that's going on. It becomes more comfortable. I'm very comfortable with it now too.
Great. It's great. I hope that's encouraging for people to hear.
Mm.
In case there are some new people who have joined us since we sort of kicked this thing off, let me just recap. We're talking to Rita. I'm going to just show you a pre-post again here. Rita, you've been in the program for 30 years and you're down, 82 pounds, just so extraordinary. And we're just sort of picking your brain here around some of the learnings that have been most meaningful for you in your time in the program. What else comes to mind, Nancy, that you want to ask Rita?
Yeah, so, we've talked a lot of what you've just said, really, people's brain is going to go to phase one, which totally makes sense. But, let's face it, that there is some of this that certainly applies to phase two as well. And you shared with us something that you told Bill as part of your approach to phase two. So, something along the lines of, for you, having 2 or 3 under eating days a week makes a big difference. So you want to expand a little bit on that?
Yeah, somewhere in these last, as I count them, sort of 14 years of more success, and I'm still working it. I learned that if I had those under eating days, 3 or 4, and most of the time that's the in the box, healthy solutions in the box day, and maybe with limited condiments, that would be phase two condiments. So I want to be realistic about that. That's how I've really been able to keep the weight off and keep the swings low. So, really keep them low. And as I said in the beginning, keep them smaller and smaller. And now they're minute. And it really has been just knowing that, I think I took great liberties for many years, even in adulthood, in between the big weight losses of, I would eat out and that would give me this liberty of eating more, or I would have social gatherings. I love to cook. There are lots of things I just don't do as much of anymore. And they were really, really hard to give up. But now I do them in limited form. And I really enjoy it when I do it, but I really have it in perspective. And so that means I have to have some under eating days in order to keep the weight off. There's just no question. And, I live with somebody who knows how to do that. And so that's been really good for me to, to see my husband of many years who, I always say he's got a thermostat. Mine is like broken, he just knows. It's this thermostat of when it's up and down, and mine is like, and now it's gradually getting in gear, I guess.
It's a great example of learning through the years. And Nancy, how many times have I heard you say this? The learning never stops.
Yeah.
In fact, I get worried if someone says they got it totally figured out, because then you're not open to even more learning. Nancy, 3 years ago or so, you helped me after 27 years in HMR as an employee. We identified that when I have 10 veggie fruit days a week, my likelihood of hitting 50 for the week goes way up. And then we looked back, and it was like, it's almost like a formula.
Yeah.
When I do that. So, that was why I could go on and on of the things I continue to learn. And here it is 31 years now, still learning. So
Me
that's
too. You mean, and I continue to learn from the people I teach.
Yeah.
And it never gets old, and there's always something to learn. It's fabulous.
And it takes so many years to master anything. I mean, we know this about athletes. We know this about writers. We know this about musicians. We have to know this about ourselves in this business, that, it is going to take us many, many years to get really good at this. And I think we learn these skills with the program, and then we have to really, take them on sort of inside. And it takes a while to do that.
Well, and then there's also the reality that, you have changes in your life, and sometimes you may be going on really well and have solid routines, and then you move, you change jobs, something happens, and all of a sudden, at the pandemic, all of a sudden the routines that you've established may not work anymore, and now it's like, ooh, now I got to figure out everything all again.
Yeah.
So that's another reason why the long-term need for continuing to learn.
Rita, those examples you just gave, learning a musical instrument or a tennis or whatever, people don't expect to be great at it when they start,
Right.
or even any point along the way. You got to keep practicing. People are very tough on themselves in this area of their lives, because there's this expectation that I should be able to just do this, figure it out, and tie it up in a bow and be done with it. And boy, is that not reality-based thinking right there. All right, so the learning never stops. That leads us to our final chapter here. In some ways, personally for me, Rita, the most interesting part of the conversation that we had last week, major insights during the pandemic. So here we have people struggling mightily during the pandemic. Physical activity levels are down. Diets got worse in many ways. Comfort and convenience choices were driving people's food decisions. Sleep was down. I just read that one in the New York Times this today. Weights were up. Anxiety levels, biggest study showed that they doubled. This was a tough time. So, Nancy, some people were in HMR engaged during the pandemic, and they were able to minimize those effects. Others had a tough time and have now come to HMR to offset what happened in the pandemic. Tell us about some of what you observed about yourself during this challenging time, Rita.
Well, it's interesting. I went in very strong with HMR, which was just luck, honestly. I had been in a restart in a clinic, and I had lost maybe 15 pounds. I think I had like 20 to lose. And so I went in strong, and I was really paying attention to it. And I thought, oh, okay, I'm home. I'm teaching from home. I'm home, right? Yeah. And I wasn't doing some things that actually had thwarted me, which I didn't realize. One was I commute between states from my job, and that is a challenge, especially trying to get PA and figuring out, because I stay in one place for a few days and then I'm home for a few days. So that didn't happen. And then it was very interesting on getting food because of my age, I did not go to the grocery store at all. So I ordered everything online. Very interesting. I saw after about 3 weeks, and by then I was, in a phase 2 kind of situation, that I was ordering the same thing because it was easier just to go click, 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 click. So nothing was coming in that shouldn't. This was kind of like the example I gave before about walking, and then I thought, oh, I can run. Same thing sort of happened. So now I'm not bringing in any additional food. I'm not eating out. I'm not commuting, so I can do the PA. And so I felt like I was in an experiment with myself, that all the conditions were right.
Mm,
And somewhere in the middle, I thought, oh, this is how you maintain your weight, you
mm,
know?
yeah.
And it's been over this year that I've been in within 2 pounds, up and down within 2 pounds the whole time. And it's no coincidence to me that all those things, we didn't do any takeaway food,
Mhm.
nothing, and we ate well. We ate well. I moved into phase 2. I was cooking. I was very compliant. It was easy to attend class. It was on Zoom. All of that was terrific. And so all the things that I would say defeat me were not there. So
Mm,
now the big task for me and
right.
for many of us as everything opens up is not to fully embrace all of that.
Absolutely. I mean, aren't we already seeing that as society opens up, people are just dying to sort of spread their wings
Go out and eat.
Nancy, I keep invoking your wisdom here. You've always talked about how when there's more diet structure, it obviously people do better with their calorie management, but there's also psychologically less food stress.
Mm.
So here we have more diet freedom, which might lead to, what would you say about that?
Oh, just I think a lot of stress. People are going to be trying to rely on willpower. They're going to have tempting
Right.
foods in their environments. They're going to be going out to eat. There's going to be a lot of people that aren't worried about their weight or their food choices. They're going to be dealing with there's going to be a lot of it because people are trying to get together because they haven't gotten together in a while. And I'm sure there's people already anticipating that as much as it's going to be nice, it's going to be challenging.
Yeah.
And we've already seen that. Some of the folks think, oh God, I had to go to 3 parties, and
Right.
it's just like, ah.
All the social events. Yeah.
Yeah. So the goal, as we've said a few episodes ago, is progress. It doesn't, not perfection. You need to just take this and you have to apply it in a way that's going to work in your life. But I think it's just easy to kid oneself around some of these things, particularly as society is going in one direction.
Mhm.
So just keep working the methods of the program so that you could stay in the driver's seat with your weight.
And now, Rita, it's great because again, now you've got, just even more perspective of, gee, when I'm traveling, is there anything I would do differently this time?
Mm.
Are there other ways to get the PA in? I don't know if you ever stopped when you were driving for food, and is there something so anyway, I don't know if you've got any thoughts.
Well, I'll tell you what I did do after long days when I wasn't home. I would stop off and get a salad, but it would be like a hefty salad with things in it that I could have done without, right? Which I didn't have at home. So I could really see that slippery slope of the takeaway, especially. And also socially, with friends, dining out, and that wasn't there. So I don't know how to navigate it completely, but I'm very aware of it. And I'm aware of it because I really felt like I was in a petri dish for a year.
Yeah.
It was so clear. It was so clear. So hopefully I learned something from that.
Yeah. And more to find out as you go back to having some of those. And so what are some more strategies? There's always more we can figure out. I'm always believe every problem can be solved.
So we're nearing the end. Nancy, are there any other questions you want to ask Rita?
Yeah, I just wanted to, as we're summarizing here, Rita, are there any other additional perspectives, about your experience that you want to share with everyone here?
Yeah, I thought about that. Thank you. It's a great question. One of the things that I'm working on now, which might be helpful for people, especially people who have been maintaining for a while, is I'm trying to really now have goals around what I call sort of seasonal issues. And those are around holidays. These have always been my weak spots, holidays, travel, and also in the positive around opportunities I have to do more. So not just the negative of, wow, the holidays are tough and I've got to really figure out, problem solve that, but also the summer is a great opportunity for me to do, for example, more PA. So I'm ratcheting up my goals to I'm like having trouble saying it. Even in class, I have trouble to do 3,500 a week,
Wow.
which is
Wow.
a lot for me. It's like 6 miles a day of whatever I do, you know. So, but I know I can only do that in the summer. So I'm still finding goals. And I think that keeps me interested in the program. I mean, you didn't ask the question, but there is the question of how can you do this forever, you know, and like how, you know, well, for me, I think it's that keeping it interesting a little bit too, by having discrete goals. And fortunately, you know, we can express those in class, and, you know, everyone's welcoming to, you know, to hear that. And then, you know, my biggest goal is that I am at the lowest body weight in adulthood that I have had. And I have been maintaining that within 2 pounds. And I've been doing that. And in September, that will be a year. And so see you in September.
Oh, that's awesome.
Wonderful.
Oh,
Wonderful.
that's great.
Well,
That's great.
we knew this would be a fast moving conversation. Rita, can't thank you enough for spending time with us and with our
pleasure.
community. To our audience, we hope this conversation has you thinking and was valuable. If so, leave us a comment. Let Rita know, let us know that
Please do.
this was time worth spending. And just as summarizing this, Rita, again, don't mean to embarrass you, but my brother, your coach, sent me an email just yesterday that he had received from another program member. He handed this to me yesterday and said, "This is Rita's journey in a nutshell." And it's a quote from Winston Churchill, and it goes, "Success is not final. Failure is not final. It is the courage to continue that counts." So I hope you agree that that
Great.
captures at least some of your journey. Yes?
Mhm.
It is, you know, there is an element definitely of courage.
Yes. Especially when you're in one of those weight gain periods, right?
Absolutely, absolutely. Keep on keeping on. Don't give up. Quitting is not an option.
Yep.
To anyone that's struggling right now, just listen to what Rita just said.
Hmm.
Well, again, thanks everyone for joining us tonight. We look forward to another great conversation next week. And with that, have a good, strong week, everybody. Thanks again, Rita.
Thank you, Rita. Good night, everyone.
Thank you.